A tenant in Jackson, Mississippi is claiming that he allowed some homeless people to stay over the night at his house and they refused to leave, and now they are squatting in the house. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting story for you today. It's coming out of Jackson, Mississippi, a place I don't really talk about a lot because it's a pretty landlord-friendly state. But this story, it got my attention because it shows you that having a tenant in your property that allows, a bad element to stay there, it's a big issue. That's why I demand that, hey, if a person is staying up in your house, they need to be on the lease, period. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of difficulty removing them. And in this case, the tenant who was staying in the house actually created this problem. And, there's probably more to the story that we're not hearing, but the gist of it is that this tenant allowed some people to stay up in his house, right? Maybe he felt sympathy for them, maybe for other reasons, and we'll get into that as I go through the article, but those people refused to leave. And now they are squatting in the house. So the landlord ends up with a bunch of people staying in a house that are not on the lease, that had no right to be there because of the actions of this tenant. Okay, so what do you do in this sort of situation? And that it's absolutely insane in my opinion, but they're writing an article about it, and that's why I thought I'd go through the whole issue. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So this situation that I just laid out, where you got a bunch of people staying in your property that were not on the lease, that are not the original renter, what do you do? Now, obviously, you're going to have to file eviction against whoever these occupants of the house are, right? There might be a way to get them as trespassing because they have no actual right to be there. Now, if you're in the tenant's position, how do you get these people out? I don't know. I don't know the laws, rules, and regulations for the places where everybody's investing. Hopefully, the landlord, the property owner is able to get these people out of there relatively quickly in a place like Mississippi. But anyway, let me get into the article. I'm going to go over the details of exactly what is happening. This article is coming from WLBT.com, and it says, renter claims homeless squatters took over his Jackson house. And I have been to Jackson, Mississippi before. My wife's brother actually lives there, and we went there to visit him. It's a pretty low-income city, okay? That's all I have to say. I don't want to talk too much trash about the place. But anyway, let's get into the article. On the heels of a legislative committee meeting on homeless concerns, a Jackson man claims the homeless took over the house that he was renting. The Broadmoor resident said he was unable to get the squatters to leave, so he had to go. I let them stay one night, and they brought the whole crew. It's like 5 of them, said Ricky Myers. And in my opinion, he should have, if they were just staying in there for one night and then they refused to go, he could have called the police and easily had them trespassed, okay? Because they had, nothing, no documentation, no paperwork or anything saying that, hey, we got a right to be here, other than, hey, you spent a single night there. But like I said, I think there's something more going on in this situation. Now, if this has something to do with drugs, if this has to do with, most people, they don't just meet up random homeless people and just say, hey, yes, come stay in my house. Now, I have read a few articles actually where some bleeding heart people, they just felt like they needed to let the homeless up into their house, and they faced this sort of situation, but that doesn't sound like what's going on here, okay? This sounds like something that has to do with drugs or, crime, something negative going on in this situation. Friday, he was trying to move from his Windmere Terrace rental house after he said it had become overrun with the homeless. The first was a friend he had invited. Philip Fry asked if he could move in with me because him and his friend had gotten into it, said Myers. Then I said, you could come to stay a couple of nights. That's it. That's all I could do. They ended up moving in, staying, and bringing in a whole crew of them. So if this is truly an issue, what you need to do is immediately contact your landlord, let them know who these people are, and then your landlord can work on eviction. The bad news is you're going to get evicted too. Okay? The landlord is going to kick all of y'all out because this is complete garbage. You shouldn't have allowed them in the place in the first place without your landlord's permission. Now, if you're saying that you truly did, and let's just go out on a limb and say that, hey, I really did just let them stay for a couple of days. Well, if that's the case, right, and you're not in the wrong, then you should have, addressed this issue much, much sooner. According to Myers, he's trying to get the people to leave. He's tried to get the people to leave for 4 years. He said they have argued with him, torn up the house, and fought him while he was getting his belongings. No one answered the door, but someone looked through the window while Myers was packing. It's 5 of them, the renter said. The law won't do nothing to them. The law won't help me make them leave or nothing without having them evicted. I don't have eviction money. They want to charge $100 per person to have them evicted. I don't have it. Well, you're a renter, okay? Who owns this house? This whole story sounds so weird to me. Like, you're a renter trying to evict people that you were illegally subletting it to, because that's what it sounds like. This is an illegal sublet where, these people were staying in the house. If you let them stay there for 4 years, this isn't, hey, I let them stay for a couple of days. Next thing I know, I turned around and it had been 4 years and they've been up in the house. Okay. You're leaving something out. Okay. First of all, where's the property owner? Who is paying the rent? Okay. Who is paying the rent to the property owner right now? Are you paying it? And if you are paying it, I'm pretty sure the issue is that these people who you had allowed to stay in the house stopped paying you. And now you want to get them up out of the place and they're refusing to leave. And you're finding out, I have to go through the eviction process. You say there's 4 of them in there and you don't have $100 per person to get them out. Well, you know who does have the $100 per person? The person who owns the house. Okay, and they're going to get you out as well. If you're leaving anyway, then this shouldn't even be an issue. But God, this situation is kind of nuts. Okay, imagine a tenant who is illegally subletting your house and doesn't want to pay a few $100 to go through an eviction process after their subletted tenants decided to stop paying them. This insane, but it goes back on you where, like I said, the landlord should know everybody who's living up in the house, and everyone should have be on the lease, because otherwise it's going to be a squatter situation. Eventually there's going to be issues, and that's exactly what happened here. Myers' landlord did not want to be identified or talk on camera, but said everything his tenant said isn't true. This is the actual landlord said, yeah, that isn't true. According to the property owner, the people had been living there a while, and he thought they were related to Myers. He said Myers' name is on the lease, but a third-party organization pays the rent. The unnamed landowner said he offered to come to the residence while Myers got his property, but the renter declined. The landlord has not decided what he will do at this time about the people still on the property. So now we hear a little bit more about this situation. The property owner, the actual landlord, says, yeah, the people who, everything this guy, this renter is saying, it isn't true. Those people have been up in there for a very long time. Landlord apparently knew about it and had no issues with it. Otherwise, the landlord would have already moved to evict. Landlord's getting the money not from this guy, not from the so-called renter, not from the people living in the house, but from some kind of third-party organization. Just imagine it being Section 8, okay? Government or non-governmental organization, some non-profit or some government organization is paying these people's rent for them. Landlord don't care what happens in the house as long as they get their money. So obviously this situation is a little bit more complicated, and what we got here is we got a lying tenant. We got a whole bunch of people in the house that aren't paying any rent. They're all living off of socialism and garbage, and a completely ridiculous situation overall where the tenant doesn't even have a few $100s to file eviction against these people. So anyway, this story didn't end up being what I thought it was when I started off reading the article. But anyway, put your comments down below. Tell me what you think of this whole situation.